Oh, right, no command. Hello everybody. Just pretend it said gentlemen start your engines. Welcome to the Sigma IROC series. I'm Brian. Thank you for joining me this evening. Bob Leader is on your pole, and I have a special guest, the man himself, Jakester.
Howdy, folks. It's going to be a good race here from Las Vegas, I can definitely tell. We usually have a lot of great racing here in the Sigma series, and the Sigma IROC ain't going to be any different, I imagine, Brian.
Now, a little bit of fourth wall breaking. We have tried to do this before, and it ended up ending badly. So this is technically a re-recording. That's why you didn't hear the command to start with. I apologize. It's on me. But this is still a good race. I just... The good news is about me, I can't remember anything that happened in it.
See, and that's the thing, too. It's going to be like a throwback because, you know, a lot of the old broadcasts used to be that way where it would be a recorded race that would be, you know, called over after the events happen. And so that's what we're doing here tonight, kind of throwback to the 70s or the 80s of television before the big television deals. You get, you know, call the action after it happened.
So some of the little creature comforts of a live race are sadly not going to happen, but we shouldn't miss anything this time. Off the jump, you've got Bob Leader. Is he going to lead the first lap? At the line with Tim Cording? Yes, he does. Leader is the leader.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was about to ask if it's Tim or Tom. I get the two confused pretty often, and it's good to know now. It's Tim Cording in the 50. And you got Jimmy Logano in the 28 running in third right there. Bob Leader, this is his farewell kind of tourney at the end of his career. He's mostly retired, obviously running this series. Didn't run the Cup Series anymore. We're kind of doing that as an honorific for these drivers getting one more run in the Sigma IROC series, a race of champions as it is, and get to go out with, you know, one more shot to get a couple wins before you tie it all up.
Of course, Bob Leader here is not the only one that is on the retirement list. The other one is
John Roman, I believe.
right here, yes.
Yep, right there.
If I remember right, we were going to have more. I believe we were going to have Will Power as a retiree, weren't we?
We had him last year, I think.
Right, that was it. Last year was his last run.
Yep.
I probably said that in a past race, and I've just completely forgotten since then. Oh well.
And there might be another driver joining the fold next year from the Cup side. I know that, you know, and I'm actually kind of factoring real life age for some of these drivers once it gets to a point where, you know, retirement is a viable option. Bob Leader, he's obviously in the retirement age of race car racing, and, you know, eventually I don't know if I want to do it yet, but my dad, you know, he's getting up there and he might be joining the retirement crew later, but he's still running Cup full-time and should be running Cup full-time next year too, but we'll see.
He's been running strong too.
Fifth right there behind your defending Bridge to Cup champion Bradley Ream, who has the current points lead in the Cup Series this year. Actually took the lead away from you and What Army, a rookie in the Cup Series, and he's out there competing for a championship.
Of course, all of our Sigma champions for 2014 are running in this race.
Which is pretty interesting to have a whole field of the champions together in one big group. That's where the action happens.
Here's IROC champion DeBlank.
And he's having a decent season this year in the Cup as well. So we've got a lot of Cup drivers up at the top half of the Cup's, point standings that are these IROC racers.
Here's the one that everybody's watching, though.
Your ARCA champion, yeah, Wyatt Wilkinson. It's been a rough patch for him, but I think, it's going to take is a little bit of momentum to get him rolling.
He's shown that he has the capacity to do it. It's just that little bit more push. He could very well be a winner in even Cup.
And with our current Project Roar Rookie on a Rampage situation in the Cup Series, you got Willow Blake, you've got Wyatt Wilkinson, and Trevor Vaden, who's also in the field here. You got Trevor Vaden in the 18 right there. One of those three drivers are going to be a new team owner next year, depending on how well they finish in Project Roar, put on by our 2023 Sigma Cup champion Atlee Weiss. Decided that he was gonna give us a little bit of a game show, I guess you could say, for that team ownership. That he was the team owner. He didn't necessarily close up shop, but he went on to bigger and better things, and it's gonna be interesting to see who takes over in that team for the spirit of Atlee Weiss's team going forward.
Kind of like a combination of whatever that show with Richard Branson was, and Driver X that found Carl Edwards eons ago.
The Gong Show, I think. Was that? I remember there's a Roush Fenway, or Roush back then had what they called the Gong Show, but maybe a different show. I don't know.
I remember that one in particular being Driver X.
Okay. There we go. We got to fight for the lead here.
Speaking of age and experience, we got a little bit of a contrast here.
I don't know how to explain Jimmy Logano to anyone else, because the combination of Joey Logano and Jimmy Johnson, which they're obviously pretty explanatory on the whole situation. The reason he has 11 championships is because you combine 7 or 10 championships, not 11.
10.
He's going for 11. The 7 from Jimmy Johnson and the 3 from Joey Logano, and they still have, Joey Logano's still out there, could win another championship, so it could grow to 11. It could grow to 12. But then again, maybe the age is the average of the two, I would have to say.
Probably.
So like mid-30s, but who's counting, right?
I mean, I've pretty much figured out age is just a number, and whatever you apply to it. I'm physically in my mid-30s, or age-wise, I'm in my mid-30s. I feel like I'm in my mid-60s, and mentally, I'm 157. Monty up to third. Jack Davis actually putting on a show today, running fourth up here with the leaders.
Things have definitely singled out here for now. I feel like the teams might be looking at the numbers on fuel mileage here. I can't really say for certain.
It's within a lap.
So we'll be. I mean, depending on how hard some of these drivers are running up front, they might be burning a little bit extra fuel, meaning they'll have to almost certainly come in a little bit sooner.
Yeah, and of course there was the Atlanta thing where, or the thing earlier in the season where. One race, I think it was in Indianapolis, they should have been able to run the whole race without pitting, and they didn't. And then I believe Atlanta, they could have run the whole race, or they shouldn't have been able to run the race at speed. And what they do, they backed off enough to where they didn't need to pit.
See, the AI,
it threw me off to the point where I'm like, okay, they're gonna do whatever.
The AI they'll pull a rabbit out of their hat once in a while and keep you thinking.
The funny thing is that's what that strategy is what won Atlanta in season 1 for Daniel Palace.
Yep, I kind of faintly remember that.
Everyone else came into pit except for the back 5. They pretty much drifted as much as they could, and while the original leaders were able to get back up to the back of that set of 5, they were not able to make passes on any of them, I believe. So all 5 of them finished in the top 5 on fuel.
And then, of course, they had to do something completely different at the exact same track. So
instead, everybody decided to play the fuel game. So no one played the fuel game as it was. So far, Bob Leader has led most of the race. I think he may have been nipped for 1 lap. But for the most part, he's led every lap so far. We are 19 out of 67. 100 miles here in Las Vegas. Going through the field, you see... Well, let's go through the field at lap 20. Or on lap 20. We've got Bob Leader in the lead. Jimmy Logano in second. Jack Davis in third. Monty Shangle in fourth. Bradley Ream in fifth. Tim Cording looking to the inside in sixth.
That's actually... Tim Cording's dropped off hard because he was up front there fighting for the lead, and yeah, falling back to sixth. That's a rough way to go here.
He's had a habit of going back and forth all season so far. At the line at 20 is...
Inconsistency.
Yes. I mean, there's a lot of these drivers that they will actually run well during the race, and then something happens at the end and they just fall off the face of the earth. DeBlanc has been one. He has actually run top 5, top 10 in most of the races this year, but come the end of the race, he's in the back 5. See Davis and Ream make a little headway. Continuing on with our order, you have 7th place Wyatt Wilkinson, Trevor Walker in 8th, Kellen Rolich in 9th, one of the better races so far this year, as is Al Bunch in 10th, another one who's been mired in the back by the end of the race. Jordan Walker in 11th, John Roman 12th, Trevor Vaden 13th, Brian DeBlanc, speaking of being mired, 14th. Ewan What Army has not had a good year so far. I mean, honestly, he hasn't had a good IROC.
It's kind of wild, that LFG Motorsports has been plagued, and obviously these are spec cars, so it's not like a team prepped car, but yeah, maybe there's a curse, The LFG Motorsports drivers, teams, whatever it is, have had a rough patch here in 2025. Ewan What Army's been the only standout, but we've seen Chaz Chadwick multiple times fighting for a win, get knocked out. His teammate Chadwick's always outside looking in, and it's just been a rough year. In the back, who are the last two? I'll read off the last two through the field there. It was Tyler Shangle and Dave Steele Jr. So that rounds out your field here at Vegas tonight.
Jimmy Logano has taken the lead, and Bob Leader has fallen all the way back to 4th.
Getting stuck on that outside. You got to find a way on the inside as soon as possible. If not, you'll just drop backwards like a rock. Might this be some of the first laps that Jimmy Logano has led in the IROC side of things?
I believe so. I think they were up front at Indianapolis, maybe Atlanta, but I don't believe that they led many laps.
Well, and he's got Monty knocking on the door right behind him there.
Both Monty and Jimmy here have been a surprise this season.
Look at that, closing the gap on the front stretch now. Is he going to have enough room to make a move?
And of course, Monty won our last race at Rockingham. Wait, no. As an addendum, ladies and gentlemen, this is being run on a different setup, so I do not have all the information on hand anymore. It's still on another computer, but Discord has been a pain, and we wanted to make this one special.
That's kind of neat. We both got upgrades in our equipment this year because I got my new computer earlier this year, and so you got a new computer just recently too, then, right?
Yes. Okay, Monty won. Monty did win at Rockingham, but Rockingham was race 2. Tim Cording won at Atlanta, and that was race 3. And that's why I had to hold up a second.
Okay, so tonight it wouldn't be a back-to-back win, but it be a second win on the season.
And the first ever second win in IROC. That would put Monty on a pedestal for winners.
All alone.
Yep.
That's some true parity right there. The fact that there has not yet been a two-time winner. We've been running. This is about the 16th or so race, or
this would be number 12 because we only ran 8 races in season 1.
Gotcha. Okay.
But we were 8 for 8 in different winners in season 1.
Wow.
We were also 0 for 0 in another category that is still running. We have never had a caution. Not one.
Wow. That's even more wild.
These cars are built to be rugged and reliable. So failures are also very rare, but these drivers have been on the ball, and we've had a few collisions. But even at Indianapolis, which I was dreading, these drivers handled it like absolute masters. We have Jack Davis looking to the inside, going to take the lead on lap 32. Davis was one of the contenders back in Indianapolis, which was won by Dave Steele Jr.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of shake-up here, and it's just about halfway now. Two by two at the front. Monty Shangle drops to 5th. Wilkinson on the move up as well. Starting to see some comers and goers.
I think this is the best Wyatt's run all season so far, and he's been working his way up more. So he's been doing good. This is great. He's just got a bunch of hungry vets around him. Including one Kellen Rolich. Of course, our latest winner, Tim Cording. Seems like the leader has a pretty good control on the field, however. everybody behind, they're kind of at the mercy of the dirty air. But with that clean air up at the front, the leader has the run of the track until somebody is able to figure out how to get a run on them. But then they've got to hold it. And with that little bit of fresh air, leader can hold that line on the outside and close the door.
I'm just impressed we're getting lead changes here. It's not often you always get a good selection of lead changes. A lot of times it's a follow the leader affair and a lot of racing anymore nowadays. So lead changes are always very, very welcome.
These cars being more aerodynamic than normal stock cars is a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, there's the air dams kind of hinder that a little bit. I mean, these are still technically tech from 1990, from the mid to late 90s. There's no aerodynamic underfloor. There's no aerodynamic ducting for much more than brakes and radiators. So these are a throwback.
And they're true purpose-built race car. You ain't gonna do much else with them, but get out there and race.
I mean, I would love to install headlights and run them through my hometown, but I don't think that's going to happen. And personally, I've always enjoyed looking at these cars. Like sometimes the Trans Am that this is based off of, sometimes they can look awkward, but for some reason this always appealed to me. And as the person who painted a lot of these, certain liveries also make these look very awkward.
Well, I think a lot has to do with the body design. It just makes them look fierce. It makes them look fast, and it gives them that aerodynamic. It looks like, the aerodynamics of a race car, which is the problem with a lot of your current race cars nowadays. I don't know what their muse, what the muse is for a race car that they build nowadays. It's not
Money.
like they're trying to sell that car because it's not based off of a production line car.
A lot of them is, Mustang, Camaro, that's more rose tinted glasses than anything else. Mm-hmm. And we are getting pit stops this race, lap 40. So new leader technically. Actually, no, Davis was in the lead, has been. So Davis, Tyler Shangle, who had made their way up a little bit, and Trevor Vaden.
And honestly, this is about the best time you get a green flag pit stop so that it actually makes the rest of the race play out with the normal fashion. It's not going to be determined on the pit stop, but a lot can change from a pit stop too. So it's not, you can race for it and get it back. It's not going to be an end all if you have a bad pit stop here.
Yeah, everybody's on pit road, and now everybody else is off pit road. You got Bob Leader, who was at the front and is just, ooh. That's about the second week in a row that Cording has been close to a collision. Off the jump, it's Monty Shangle out of the pits. And with a big gap, too. Wow. Logano as well. And then Ream, Wilkinson, and Trevor Walker. These pit stops are a way for some guys to have a chance. Technically, the leader is still Davis. On track is now Monty Shangle.
Well, now it's going to give everyone a chance to try and race for it back. The mistakes, if they had them, were made on pit road there. Aren't going to be the end of it. So about 23, 24 laps to go.
Yep.
And now it'll come down to who's really got the speed. Oh, wow. Bob Leader, how did he go all the way to 17th?
He was something happened on pit road, and they had to hold him for a long time. He was the last one of the first group off.
That's a heartbreak right there. After leading pretty much a quarter of the race here today, and he's going to be
at least
dead
third,
last on track.
I mean, he could recover, but
we could get that ever elusive caution, and everyone gets bound back up together.
Yeah, I've mentioned it. It could happen.
If anything's relevant, you know, me saying it into existence is usually a jinx enough for it. We'll see.
We have Jordan in 16th. The thing about Bob is that there's not really anything wrong with that car right now, and there's not really anything wrong with these too. So it's going to be an uphill fight. We've got Al Bunch falling to the back again, currently 15th on track, 14th at the line. Being passed by John Roman, and we'll try to take that 14th away for good. Here's Timmy again, back to 13th after pit stops. Ewan Army in 12th, Dave Steele in 11th. Kellen Rolich back to 10th after those pit stops. He had been like 5th. Brian DeBlank, middle of the field. Then we get up close to this lead pack. Trevor Walker in 8th. Trevor Vaden in 7th. They can't get away from each other. But you can see that the overrun on the pit stop seemed to have been helpful. You have Wyatt 6th of the line. No. But then you have Tyler Shangle here in 5th. He was near the back. Bradley Ring in 4th. Jack Davis in 3rd. Now, granted, who was the one that was rolling with them? I don't remember. There were 30. Yeah, me too. It may have been Reem. I don't remember for sure.
Well, I know Reem was up there early in the top 5. It was Jack Davis also was in the top 5.
Yeah.
So the one that lost out with Tyler moving in, well, it would have been Bob Leader for the most part.
Yeah, Leader and Shangle have pretty much changed positions. Or changed fortunes, I guess you would say.
Yep, because that's about where Tyler was before the pit stops. So Tim Cording had a great start, not a great finish here today, it looks like.
Still time, but it's running out. Coming up, this is the end of lap 49, the start of lap 50.
So Monty Shangle's got the lead over Jimmy Logano. It looks like Jimmy Logano's starting to close that gap up just a little bit. And it might become a threat here before long.
It's a slow climb though.
Jack Davis in 3rd. You got more commotion there for 3rd, 4th, and 5th than you do 1st and 2nd.
Of course, pit stops in our IROC series are a unique thing because that was kind of a no-go back in the day. They made sure they ran short enough distances and had enough fuel to get through to the finish no matter what.
And I don't think any of us have figured out how you can actually modify the game's fuel. Actually, you might be able to edit the track so that the fuel usage is like
I'm not sure,
but I don't know. I think you can dial it to where they pit more often, but you can't really.
You can't really back it off much. Yeah.
No, it's pretty much set at the max for every track, so your fuel numbers are kind of locked.
But I think it's a wild card that adds a little flavor to it.
Oh, definitely, yeah, because like we've already seen, it's unpredictable. You don't know if there's going to be one.
And the crews are also third party, so they're not tied to the drivers at all. In fact, they get shuffled around every race, so everybody's on pretty even ground, but stuff can still happen at any point. They're not perfect.
Which could have been something that happened with Bob Leader if he had a, mistake with the pit crew. I don't think there was any damage on that 88, the engine, but
not
who
beforehand.
knows, maybe there was.
He's still running 180, so
sounds.
It sounds healthy to me. Take a look at Roman, because I think they're actually putting a little distance. 185 at the light. 183, so there may be a little bit there. Something may have given up a little bit on that 88.
Oh, look at that. Jimmy Logano closing the gap some more.
Yep.
Monty's getting up to
half a second.
Draft, I think.
Half a second cut on that lap. More than half. The advantage is gone. Or the gap advantage is pretty much gone for Monty. He's got 12 laps to hold on to that, but he still has the advantage of being the leader. Of course, another unique thing is how our schedule is going to go for the rest of the season. Of course, we're not going to have a regular season like the Cup or the trucks or anything like that. As everybody has been made aware, Las Vegas is basically the start of vacation for the rest of Sigma. This is where the IROC series is about to go ham.
And what's important about this race is it coincides with what is one of the penultimate, races to that big July break that we get, the 777 annual, one of the biggest Sigma Cup races that we host each year. So you've already seen it at this point because I'll break the fourth wall a little bit again, as we've already done once tonight. This race is premiering on July 9th. You guys would have just seen the 777 annual 2 days ago, so
whoever wins that, congratulations.
Yeah, congrats to the winner. It might be someone in this field of IROC drivers, and we don't know it yet.
It very well could be. I think the vast majority of them are in the race. So,
well, if you want to go through the field, starting with Monty. Monty's a yes. Jimmy Logano's a yes. Jack Davis is slated, but he's gonna have to come through a sprint qualifier, and so that's what's interesting. He's gonna have to come through a sprint qualifier. Tyler Shangle's in it. The rest of the field, Trevor Vaden is gonna be absent for that week.
Yeah, because he's in that Project Roar ride, and I don't think he's scheduled that race.
Bradley Ream may very well have just won it, knowing he's the current points leader. Wyatt Wilkinson,
I think he might
is going to be in a LFG Motorsports.
Right, because he's doing part-time with 2 cars.
Yeah, he's going to have to qualify in. So, yeah, just amongst your top 8 there, Trevor Walker's in the field as well. We got 7 laps left to go, 6 laps left to go. Oh, DeBlanc and Steele, they're teammates with each other actually back at Trackhouse B. So how interesting to see them running side by side on track.
Hey, there's plenty of room there. There's plenty of respect. I imagine that
And
60.
they'll
I imagine that number. Well, I was gonna say I imagine that 61 will change for DeBlank, but he's the IROC champion with that number. It's about the only success he had with it. He might keep it just out of respect for that, because he is, until further notice, he's a fixture in this series now, right?
Well, and even the Cup Series, we've seen him showing up this year. So, no, DeBlank's, he ain't going nowhere. He's starting to establish himself in the Sigma Racing Series. Down to 5 laps to go. Let's hop back up to the front and see. Like,
No
Jimmy
change,
Logano's
except for back
resurging.
here, Davis is falling back badly. We weren't that far away. We could have seen that. Anyway, lead two are the same.
Okay.
Shangle has moved up to third. Tyler Shangle is also our inaugural winner.
And the winningest driver in Cup history, so there's that little tidbit as well. It seems like wherever I put my brother, he's gained all the accolades, and he doesn't care about racing one bit. So go figure. I wish I had half the wins that he did, and I'm catching up. But it's kind of wild that he's not even a race car fan, and yet he's probably the most successful of us all in the Sigma Racing Series.
I mean, I've seen people who are dedicated to their work and have no interest in it outside of that. So, and
Like we might have a household fight in front of the field, though.
Shangle v. Shangle.
Getting around Jimmy Logano for second with just a handful of laps left to go. Mano y mano. Monty versus Tyler.
I also find it kind of amusing how the Shangle family and Sigma doesn't exactly run under the same banner. I believe Monty Shangle runs Dodges, you run Fords, or ran Fords.
Yeah.
And I think Tyler runs for somebody else entirely, doesn't he?
So yeah, the Tyler Shangle Racing's under Dodge. My dad runs Monty Shangle Motorsports under Ford. I've hopscotched around between Ford. We're now with Genesis, and then
Right.
Kara, she's actually got Shangle Toyota Racing. So just to give the Shangle names some extra, hold on a different manufacturer for each one.
We'll call it the Shangle Shuffle.
Yeah. White flag waving there. One more lap to go here today.
I do have to make one correction. Atlanta was our inaugural race. The fuel mileage race was the second race at Chicago.
No, Jimmy Logano's going to try to spoil the 1-2 finish for the Shangle household here. Tyler's going to have to fight back as Jimmy gets alongside of him.
He might be able to get it with some of that air out of the turn, but regardless, at the line, Monty Shangle becomes our first repeat winner in IROC history.
Ever.
And Logano did nip him at the line. So Jimmy Logano second. Tyler Shangle in third. Bradley Green fourth. Trevor Vaden in fifth. Wyatt Wilkinson sixth. Trevor Walker in seventh. Jack Davis had a good run but ended up eighth. Actually, that's not a terrible day for him. Dave Steele ninth. Brian DeBlank 10th. Not a bad day for him all told. Rolich in 11th. What Army in 12th. Again, not a bad day. Al Bunch 13th. John Roman 14th.
I'm surprised there with Al Bunch.
Al's not had a good IROC period either. Jordan Walker in 15th. Tim Cording back to 16th. And Bob Leader with that.
From the lead to last.
Yeah. Which has happened a few times already this season, which is crazy. Not going to have a splash screen for y'all this time, or the stylized graphic for the finish order. Again, to break that fourth wall. Oh, Trevor missed the pits the first time. Trevor Vaden.
There were definitely some technological difficulties on the first attempt at this, but seems like we probably got it good this time for y'all.
Yep. Uh, we'll try to finish the season on the old setup just so that consistency is kept. If season 3 happens, and that will be it, and that's going to be a fairly big if for right now, then it will probably end up being on this new setup just for efficiency, because this has run without a hitch and without a hiccup, and I'm starting to see issues on the old one. However, well, let's get back to the Sigma reality. And while everybody else is taking their vacation, the Sigma drivers are about to go on a tear across the country. So let's go over the schedule. The next race is California Speedway. That will be the 14th. Sonoma, 3 days later on the 17th. A dive down to Phoenix for 100 laps in the heat. And then we're going to thrash over to Chicago, make a run down to Darlington, and then we're going to finish up in Homestead July 31st.
I'm definitely liking that West Coast swing, starting here at Las Vegas, going to Fontana, Sonoma, and Phoenix. That's the bread and butter of my own, local feel that I love right there. Pacific Northwest swing. Well, maybe not Pacific Northwest, but just the Northwest swing in general there. That's the meat. That's the meat of the sandwich as you look at the schedule. If you had the bread, Indianapolis, Rockingham is the nice bun on top. Darlington and Homestead is that, nice, neat little bun on the bottom. We're going to see a lot of good races there in the middle, with Vegas right here today, followed by California, Sonoma, and Phoenix. And I do want to mention that Homestead Miami race wasn't exactly planned. The scheduling conflict came about later, that we will have our All-Star race the same day. We'll figure out a way to coordinate and have it so that the All-Star race falls with this race together. So we'll do kind of a dual broadcast. I'll be in the booth for Homestead, giving the call with Brian on that race that day.
Oh.
I don't know if Brian wants to. He could maybe try to do a live stream with it. We can see how that goes. Maybe the new computer will actually... I'm just spitballing here, and hopefully Brian's cool with that. But
we'll get something figured out.
Thinking outside, thinking out of my head right now.
It may end up being the same setup as this, because this is working fine.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I'll have to bench test. We'll have to do some testing to see if a live race would handle the same, or if this is just how it handles with recording. But if it's just recording, then we can make this work. So, I've completely lost my train of thought. So that'll be it for us from Sigma here at Las Vegas. Congratulations to Monty Shangle for the second IROC win of their career in 4 races. Next up is California, which always produces crazy racing. I'll see you then. Jakester, thank you for joining me. Sorry for all the technical problems.
Nope, I know them all too well. We just saw them the other night when I was trying to run 2. So I'm excited, hoping that we get a lot of good races in, and hopefully this All-Star race kind of helps fit together with the IROC race that end of the calendar here in July. So
I mean, if all else fails, we can. Darlington is not that far from Homestead, so we can probably bump that up a day.
Yeah, no, we'll figure something out. So I'm excited. Hopefully everyone else is excited too, and we'll see you in the next ones for sure.
Take care, everybody, and goodbye.